All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be learning how to print UV textured leatherettes. I'm Amber and I'm here at LogoJET headquarters in Lafayette, Louisiana. And so we're going to print the patch that you see up here that has creator. And this one is a textured patch using a technique that we call gray gradation. And then we'll also show an example where we do a spot color print as well. And I'll kind of go over the differences as we go through. Before we get too far into it, we're going to go over a little bit of housekeeping. Give it a second. There we go. So everyone, please keep your microphone and web camera disabled. But we do love questions. So go ahead and enter them into the chat. You can ask questions. We'll try to work through some as we go. And then definitely at the end, we'll try to address as many as we can. A link to this recording will be sent to you as well. So you can view it after the fact if you need to go back and reference anything. And oh yeah, so I'm gonna go back to this. And throughout the demonstration, if you want to go back and forth between the screens that you see here, whether you want to focus on what's being printed or like some of the software I'm going to share, you can just hover over each of the windows and then you'll be able to select that one to maximize that one if you want to view it closer up. So I'll go ahead and dive in. So the first thing we're going to do is going to open up our Cathari software and we're going to print a template onto our bed here. We have a sticky mat that is preloaded onto the bed. It just sticks to the bed and then we're going to print our template on here. And it's just going to be a simple outline of the shape of the product we're going to be placing onto it. So I'll go ahead and open up our Cathari software and I'll show you how we do that. So this is Cathari Print Pro. If you have a LogoJET, this is the RIP software that you're going to use. If you have another software, I'm sure you have a similar setup here. As for us, we can go ahead and click New for layout. And then we have one that's automatically saved our environment for templates. So we'll go ahead and select that. We can go to our opened images here. And we have a template that we use that's just a square template. We're going to right click, hit add multiple copies. And on here, you can go up and select a few different things here. We're going to go and load a pre-loaded environment. So that way we have our layout automatically set up for us. So this is something you can also do within your software. You can go in and manage the different sizes and everything like that, but we wanted to keep it quick for time for today. So on here, we're just going to select to fit and match. I'm going to go ahead and make it the exact size of our patch. So we have a 3 by 2 inch patch. And then this is our offset size, just kind of go a little bit into it, our width and our height and the gap, which is in between each. So as you can see, you could fit up to 50 of these size patches on the bed. Today, we're just going to print the front row. So I'm going to go ahead and just select these first 5 here. We're going to hit OK. And you can see that it preloads what it's going to look like. Over here, we can go to our print setup and properties. These are already set up how we need them for our template since we saved that environment, but just to kind of show, we have just our white here. And then we just have like a low quality setting so we don't waste a lot of ink, just printing our template, bi-direction, low passes. Again, just keep that ink cost down. On here, we have our white underbase just at 25%, again, so we don't have to waste any more ink. And it's going to put it down in our non-transparent region, which just means that anywhere it sees any pixels, that's where it's going to place it. And then we're just going to hit OK. And I'll go ahead and auto height the bed, and that will automatically sense where the top of, in this case, our sticky mat is. And then we'll go ahead and send that to print. So it's going to go ahead and print our template onto the sticky mat, and we'll go ahead and try to zoom in so you guys can get a better look at that as it's printing. And while it's kind of running through that, I'll go through some things here on the software as well. We can go ahead and I'll show you how to bring in any images that we want to have. So here you can click to the left corner and hit open, and then you can navigate to any of the images that you want to open. So we'll go ahead and open this. And then this is one that we're going to use our textured spot. So you can see that it has it here. We're going to leave that selected and hit OK. And that's how easy it is to just open up an image. So I'll go back to our layout here. It looks like our print is just finishing up. So as you can see here, we have our template loaded and printed onto the bed. So next I'm going to go ahead and just load these leather patches that we have here. That's the 2x3. And these are just simple white patches. These are from Lone Star Leather. And we'll have a special code for you guys to order these as well at the end of the demo. So all I'm doing now is simply placing these directly in the spot that we printed our template. So we'll know they'll line up exactly where we need them. And again, we'll just hit that, we'll bring it forward. There are some sensors on each side of the bed here and here that help to sense where the auto height needs to go. So you can see it just adjusted there. We can turn that off. And then now I'll go back into the software and we'll go into a new layout. So I already have one preloaded here, leather patches. And the first one we're gonna do is our textured gray gradation patch. So I have that layout opened and I'll go through all of the different settings for that as well. I have our texture artwork that is already preloaded. So again, I'll go ahead and hit right click and add multiple images. And here you can see it saved our last settings. We don't need to change everything just the same. So we'll hit OK. And you can see that it preloaded them. Again, gives you that nice preview. If I go into our print setup, this is where all of the settings that you're going to need to focus on for this technique that we're learning today. So over here we have our Braille settings. So this was in our General tab. So you go to Braille, and then we're going to use our white, 2 white inks, and 2 clear inks. And we're going to put these at 100%. So you want to make sure these all say 100 for both of the white and the clear. And what it's going to do is going to mix both of these inks, or all 4 of these inks, all together at the same time to build up that textured ink that we want to see for our Braille technique. Then we're going to go into our layer selection. And as you can see, we have different options here. We're focused on the Braille for this print. And you can see we can go all the way up to 8 layers is the max. So all of them simply have checked Braille, all 8 layers. And everything else is unchecked. Then we'll go into our device options. Up here, we want to choose probably a higher quality setting. So early we had like 600, we want to do 720 by 1200. We can leave it on bi-direction. And it's going to be a higher amount of passes than what we looked at before, just so we have that building up that texture. The more passes, the more high quality, the more ink it's going to drop. So it'll help us with that Braille height. Also, one thing that we change is over here, you can choose the dot size. So over here, we're going to choose our large dot. Again, more ink, more height. Then we're going to go over to our media, and we're going to make sure that this says 100% for our Braille. So just like we had our 25% for our white earlier, we want to make sure our Braille is going to be set to 100%. And then for this example that we're doing, we're going to choose gray gradation. So earlier you could see you have a few different options you can choose, like the non-transparent region that would put Braille over the whole entire section. This one with gray gradation, it's going to use the image itself to determine what parts are going to be higher and lower. So for gray gradation, that would mean that any of the darker colors on your image are going to be more raised than the lighter colors. And if you want the opposite, there's also inverted gray gradation. So you could also swap that if you wanted your lighter colors to be more elevated than the darker ones. For this example, we're just going with the standard gray gradation. So the darker is going to be the taller that we're going to see. So we can hit OK and OK. And we can go ahead and hit print. So as that one starts to print, I'll go ahead and set up the next part. So again, we have our environments here saved, and we're going to go to just our color one. And I'll go through those settings as well. So this one is going to look very similar to the same image. We're going to do the front row. And up here, we're also going to go into our settings and properties. Over here, you don't have to change anything. You can even if you left the hundreds here, that would be fine because we're not doing any braille on this part. This one's just the color that's going to go on top of the braille. So here we just have our color, just one layer. That's all we need. Our device options, you can leave all of this the same, bi-direction, high quality, depending on, you know, how high quality of an image you want. You can do SML or large dot here, whichever you prefer. Media, you don't really have to change anything here because all we're doing is color, so all of these settings don't really matter. So we can hit OK and OK. And I do have a sample here of what our braille is going to look like when it's all completed. See how close I could get. There we go. Now you can kind of see. So this is what it looks like once the braille is done. Kind of has the light there. But we don't really want to take it off like I did here until it's done with the color, because if you take it off, you'll never get it exactly in the right place unless you have some sort of tray. So we can actually just send this color version right after. So as soon as the braille one is done, it'll come back and finish the color as well. So you guys can keep an eye on that as it prints. And then we'll also go into setting up another version, which on this one, I'll kind of explain, you didn't need to do any prep or setup within a design software or anything like that. You can simply just print them straight from a PNG file, which is kind of what we had. I'll open up this so you can kind of see. So we have this one that we printed from, and even if I go into my layers, you can see all it is just a PNG image that we have uploaded here. It does have like a transparent background. So if you were printing on, sometimes we did some on some colored leather, that way it wouldn't print the white on the outside edges there. One thing that I did do is I kind of brought in the braille a little bit. So that's why we kind of did two separate prints. So this one is the braille. And if you look at this edge right here, you'll kind of see how it changes just slightly. So on this one, this is our color, and it goes just slightly over the edge here of our braille one. So that's why we had kind of two separate prints of that one. But I'll go into detail of how you can achieve that in our next example that we're going to do.
Amber, we have a quick question in the chat. If someone does not have the Braille environment currently, do they submit a ticket for it, or how could they go about setting that up?
It's for a LogoJET customer that doesn't have the Braille option?
Yes, the Braille environment.
Okay. Oh, the environment itself. Okay. Yeah, you can just reach out to our support team and they can help you set up the actual environment so that way you can have it saved. But just all the steps that we just went through is how you would set that up to print. And then you can just save the environment. But yeah, just reach out to our support team and they can show you how to save that as an environment. That way you don't have to remember all of the settings we kind of went through. All right. And it looks like it just finished our braille, and now it's going to come back and print our color on top. I'm going to see if I can zoom in just a little bit more on here. Okay. All right. And next, I'm going to go into our other image. So the other image that we're going to be working on is going to have spot colors for the braille. So instead of it having braille all over or just the darker and lighter colors, these pink areas that you see that I'm kind of turning on and off is where our actual braille is going to be. So you can see you can use multiple colors. It can be, you know, this fish has many different colors all in the same part, but it's all going to be the same height of braille doing it this way. And you can choose, you know, which parts of a vector graphic is obviously the best way to do this. So that way you can choose which ones are going to be the actual braille. And so all we have to do is essentially like we have our basic image. And what we'll do is to get those to be spot colors, you can duplicate whatever sections you want to be the braille. So I'll go ahead and do that one. And then we'll go into our swatches. And you can choose any color you want. I'll just go ahead and for this example, I'll go ahead and just pick a green so you guys can kind of see. We'll choose OK. And then over here in your swatches, once you have it, you can drag it over here and you can make a new swatch. And then instead of process color, you're going to make it a spot color. And you can name it whatever you want. So we'll name it texture and hit OK. And so that way you know that anything that you turn this green color, just like we had the pink, is going to be texture. Another thing you'll also want to check is for your attributes. You want to make sure that it has overprint fill checked. And that way it'll print both the braille and the color on top. If you don't have that checked, then it'll only do one or the other. So again, that was just to kind of show you an example, but I did that for both the pink. I did the same process. We already have a swatch that's named Braille, and that's the one we're going to be using whenever we bring it in to Cathari today. Also, if you zoom in on here, you can kind of see that I brought in the artwork just slightly. So that way our Braille, our pink area, is actually slightly brought in like an inset. And that just helps your actual color ink to lay completely over the Braille since it's more raised. And so in order to achieve that, I'll just kind of go back to this one that we were working on. And we can go ahead and make it into a stroke. And I'll go to my strokes. Then I'm going to go ahead and kind of make these rounded and align it to the inside. And you could do like a 1-point stroke, 0.5, something like that would be sufficient. Then we're going to go to Object, Create Outlines. I usually use shortcuts, but I'm trying to go through it for you guys. Let's see. Path, Create Outlines, Outline Stroke for this one. So it outlined the stroke. Then we can go ahead and go to Object, on Path Release. Then we can go in here and then you'll go ahead and you can delete the outside ones. And make sure all of our other pieces are in front. And then we select these ones. And make a compound path out of this and a compound path out of our smaller ones. And then in our path finder, we can take out those other ones. And that way you can see that it brought in our image right here. So this would be our braille, and it's going to be slightly inset from the other parts there. That's just kind of to show you how that process works. So I'll go ahead and turn it back to our pink since that's the actual texture that we had set up before. And that's the general artwork setup. So the main things to remember is to make sure that you have your braille. They're also going to be on the top layers. You want to make sure your braille is on top. You have it as a spot color and that you choose the overprint selection. So that's how you would set it up within Illustrator. So then we will go back into Cathari Print Pro, and we can go and select a new layout. We have our hat patches. This one we're going to choose our spot texture one. And then we're going to select our here. Well, actually, we need to print another template. So this one has a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate, create a new layout with the same settings that we did with our square template. And this time we're going to do a circle one. And we don't have a template saved for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and manually set this up. So it's going to be 3.5 inches. And we're going to use our ellipse. And we can leave these same kind of offset. Over here, we're going to change this to 3.5. Same thing, a little bit more over here. I'm going to do a little bit. So this adjusts the spacing in between each of, so it looks like I might be able to go down on here to fit it. So we can fit the same amount. I guess I'll just fit 4. So on here, it almost fits 5, but I don't want to push it too close. So we'll just go ahead and do 4 on this front row here. And we'll hit OK. And you can see that it has our circle template. And again, it's going to be our same settings from before that we had. It's just going to be white, and it's just going to be low quality. And our media, we're just going to do the 25% in our non-transparent region for our template. And it's going to print over the same template that we had before. And these are completely finished, so I'll hold them up for you in just a second before we print those. I'm going to hit the auto height, so it'll revert back down. Got to make sure it's in front of those sensors. And here's our finished product of our leather patch that we printed today. So you can kind of see we have the texture on here. The green is much more raised than these lighter colors of the tan. It came out really nice. And so I'll go ahead and I'll send our print for our circles. And as that one sets up, I'll go ahead and I'll open up our layout that we had for our spot color texture. I'll go ahead and bring in that artwork. It's going to save all our same settings. So we just hit OK. And here we go back into our properties. You're going to see a lot of this is the same. We're going to have our 100% for both of our white and both of the clear. In the layer selection, we're going to have all braille up to 7 layers. And this time we're just going to go ahead and do our color right on top for our last layer. So it's going to have slightly less braille height. It's not really super noticeable, but this way we can get it all done in one print instead of 2. So we're just going to put our color right on top. Again, we're going to have a higher resolution, bi-direction, high amount of passes, and our large dot. All of that's going to be the same. Over here, the only difference, we're going to have our braille. It's still going to be 100%, but here we have channel based. And so that simply means that if we look at our art, there's no other changes we need to make here, so I'm just going to hit OK. But if we look at our artwork, we can see that there's braille here. So this is our channels. So essentially, when you made that spot color, it creates a channel and it will show up here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cycle through the images that we have. And so this is a close-up of it. And if I hide the braille, you can see that we have our image here. So you can kind of get a preview of, make sure, okay, yes, this is all showing up, the braille, this is where I want it to be before you actually go to print. And if you need to make any changes in the artwork, you can go back in and make adjustments before you print and realize you didn't have it set up right. So the main thing we're looking for here is the channels, braille. Sometimes it may not automatically save here as braille, so you can right click and choose, in this instance, braille. So you make sure that this channel, anywhere that you see this green color, is going to be assigned to braille. Then we're going to go back to our layout here. And you can see that we've pulled in our art. We've got all 4 of them there. And I'm going to take the leather patches and I'm going to place them right into our circles that I just printed on the bed. I'm going to try to bring this camera just a little bit closer so y'all can kind of see what that looks like. You can kind of see our squares and our circles on there. And I'll put these circles right in there. I'll go ahead and pull this up so you guys can kind of look over it. Let's see. Samita, if you want to talk through the some of the price points for this, the prints that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the patch that Amber is working on right now is a 3.5-inch patch. You can see the settings that she uses there. If you are doing a bed of 50 patches at a time, the estimated time is about 25 minutes. And your ink cost is going to be broken down to about 30 cents per patch. And again, that's assuming if you're doing 50 patches on your bed at one time. This leaves you with some really great margin. So if you're looking to retail these, the average retail price of a hat with a printed patch on it is about $30. That leaves you with a profit of just under $20 each. So if you were doing an order of 10, you have close to a $200 profit, which is really great.
Yeah, so these patches are starting to print. So again, it's going to put down our braille first. It's going to put down all 7 layers simultaneously, and then it'll do the color as well as it's going through to put down everything. So I have, let's see. There it is. So I have this image. It kind of shows a little bit where it's putting down white ink and then it comes behind and does the color simultaneously right after. So you can print. It doesn't have to do multiple passes like we did before where we did our braille the whole job and then come back and do color. This one we're running it simultaneously.
Amber, we had a great question in the chat as well. So do they need to adjust the lamp cure time, or is there a recommended rest time before printing back to back? And this is especially pertaining to just preventing any cracking issues.
Yeah, no, you don't have to wait any time in between. As you can see on here, I'm not sure why it's not focused, but if I do this, so it can try to focus maybe. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you don't need to wait in between. As you can see on this one, it's going to print all of your braille and your color at the same time. So you don't have to wait in between. I saw another question asking about promoter. For these leather patches, you do not need to use any special promoter. We did kind of wipe them down with alcohol, but because we did use a laser to cut them, and that kind of causes some debris on top. So we did clean them off with alcohol, but that was more just for cleaning purposes. If you have patches that are already pre-cut, then you don't have to necessarily do that step. You don't have to use alcohol.
Yeah, and on that note, we had a couple of questions about how to cut the patches. If you don't have a router, you can always use a laser engraving machine to cut your material, or you could buy pre-cut patches as well.
Yeah, and I'll see another question about, does the color need to be named exactly the same as the channel? So essentially what you're going to do, you can name it whatever you want. You can name it pink flamingo, and then whenever you go into the artwork into Cathari, you find the one that you named, the spot color you named pink flamingo, and you just change it to braille. So like I was showing you in that little circle part, I'll kind of bring it up in Cathari so y'all can see what I'm talking about. So whenever we bring up our actual image right here, over here in this section, we can name it pink flamingo or whatever we wanted to in Illustrator. And whenever we brought in that spot color that says pink flamingo, you can select in this circle and choose braille. So you can name it anything you want within the design software.
A couple of questions regarding how you can use the patches afterwards, if they can be, pressed on using heat, and if that heat would impact the patch in any way.
Okay, yeah, so you can do them. This is an example. This one isn't a textured one, but we do have our picture that we have in our example today of the invite for the presentation. You can see an image where we do have it on a hat. So it was heat pressed onto a hat here. So you can definitely do that as well. And it holds up really well. It is flexible. So as you can see, we use a semi-flex ink. So there's no cracks or anything like that. It holds up really well. It's super flexible here. And so it looks like our other patches just finished up. So I'll go ahead and hold these up. So you can see that we have our text and our little fish here are more raised than the rest. You can see you can get that technique. Again, this is using the spot color one where we actually assigned a channel. It creates a channel to create this spot color braille technique, as opposed to this one where we used our gray gradation. And again, it was just one click of a button. That's the difference between that and the setup or the texture.
Amber,
Go ahead.
can this process be accomplished if someone is not using Adobe Illustrator, if they're using maybe CorelDRAW or Affinity? Could they accomplish the same results?
Yes, you can. So the same way we just essentially assigned a spot color. So you would do the same thing in any other design software. If it has that capability, you can definitely do it. I'm sure Corel has that. Also, you can do it in Illustrator. It's a little bit different. Instead of a spot color, you would set it up as a channel. And so it still recognizes the channel within Cathari if you're doing Photoshop. So yeah, there's a few other design softwares that you are able to do it as well. But like I said, our first example, you don't even need to have any design software if you're doing the gray gradation technique. This one was just a ping file. I could have brought that in straight as a ping file and printed it on here. The only difference would be sometimes if you don't bring in the text like we did on the texture one, you'll just be able to see on the very edge, you can see some of the white braille sticking out if you don't bring in the braille just slightly, which isn't a big deal. And if you're printing on white like we have on these, you don't even necessarily need to do that step because it's white on the back anyway. I was going to show you guys some other samples of the braille technique that you can use, not just on leather here, but also like this is on a dog tag. So again, we have like the Louisiana and the alligator as the texture. We can do texture on the poker chips. So even those super fine details like the text is braille and then the ink lines up exactly perfectly on top. This is like a coin. Again, same thing. These are using like the spot color technique. And then what is originally was designed for is for braille like ADA signs. So we've used this same technique to actually accomplish more artistic type applications using the techniques we saw today. So we can go through a few more questions.
We have a couple of questions. If someone has a Inspira series printer, so the 45i or the 90i, would this application work on those as well?
Yes, you can use these on any of our printers here at LogoJET. All of the settings and everything would be the same to accomplish them. So you can use the same file, you'd open it the same way, everything would be exactly the same as far as the Braille technique, yes.
And does this work if they do not have vector art from their customer, but instead just a PNG?
Yeah, so we kind of went over that. You can definitely use a PNG file like the first one that I kind of showed. This was just a PNG file, so you can upload that directly. It doesn't have to be brought into Illustrator first. Like I said, you just might see on the edges where the braille kind of sticks out past the color a little bit, but it's not significant, so you don't really need to, and especially if it's on a white background, it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
There are a couple of questions. If you missed any portion of the webinar, a recording will be sent after as well. So that way you can always, at your convenience, watch it in case you missed any portions of it. And we have another question. If they were not able to fully understand some aspects of it, can they schedule a tutorial with a tech? I'll let you answer that one, Amber.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a LogoJET customer, you can absolutely reach out to a tech. Our customer support is absolutely phenomenal. They can walk you through step by step. They can help you set up the environment so you don't have to remember all of the steps the next time you do it. So yes, absolutely. If you're a customer of LogoJET, you can always access our tech support to help you do these types of things.
Awesome. I think we're, for the most part, caught up. There were a couple of questions about receiving a sample of this file so that you can use it, to kind of mimic the training. Please reach out to support@logojet.com and we can certainly get a copy of the file to you.
Yep. And then also the leather that we have provided here today was provided by Lone Star Adhesive. So we do have a coupon code loaded up here, LogoJET10. You get 10% off on your website orders. So if you're looking to achieve this, you want to give it a try, you can go ahead and order some. And like Samita said, you can go ahead and request the file from LogoJET support and we can send those over to you so you can get practicing and try it out for yourself.
Amber, would this work on real leather?
Yeah, it does work on real leather.
Awesome. And TPU film, we have a question if it would work on that as well.
I'm not familiar with the TPU film, but I know that we definitely do use DTF film, which is direct to film is what it stands for. And we have printed braille technique, the texture on those. You just have to have it laminated afterwards, obviously, to go through that process, but it does work on the DTF film.
Awesome. I think we are caught up with questions for the most part.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us here today. If you do come up with any questions, you can also reach out to us at sales@logojet.com or our support team as well if you're already a customer. Hope you guys learned a lot from this, and if there's something else you want to see more of, let us know. Have a great day.